So we spend a lot of time in Bitcoin SV talking about use cases other than payments, but the title of the Bitcoin white paper uses the word electronic cash. So of course payments are important, but there's a whole lot more to payments than simply the act of moving money from one person to another. That process itself has quite a lot of steps and can get complicated in some cases. HandCash is a well-known Bitcoin SV wallet that have really been leading the charge in terms of usability to improve user experience for people who might be fascinated by Bitcoin SV, and sometimes people who really don't care but just want a useful way of processing payments. So to tell us about the HandCash Connect API, here we've got the CTO of HandCash, Rafa, ready to learn us something.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the weekend, many interesting talks, and I hope you're finding inspiration. So let me start. Yeah, so I would like to talk about how HandCash Connect can help you to find your next business model. So, of course, everything is about micropayments. Micropayments are here to fill the gap between what is free and what we consider regular payments, maybe nothing less than $5 or $10 or this kind of amount. Micropayments are in the range of probably something less than 1 cent to a few cents, maybe something like 50 cents. And they can help us to catch all these small opportunities that we are not able to monetize right now because they are not cost effective. The problem is right now, maybe someone like Mike, he wants to join Bitcoin, he wants to integrate micropayments, and he just starts with something like, yeah, I want to do the hello world with Bitcoin. I just want to send something like 5 cents to someone else. And the issue is it requires so many different concepts, like the UTXO management. You have to learn how to use a script and how to use the elliptic cryptography. Then you have to learn about the simplified payment verification if you want your application to scale. And finally, things like how to broadcast the transaction all over the network. And even worse, how to manage users' private key. If you want to be custodial, non-custodial, all these, bunch of concepts that in some cases they, you get a really bad impression about Bitcoin because it shouldn't be so difficult. So this is the problem we wanted to solve. And with HandCash Connect, all these concepts and probably all these months of learning and investment, they can be just something like that, just pay. So you require some sort of user authentication token. And once you have the token, you have permissions to use the user wallet. So just with these few lines of code, you can make an actual hello world in Bitcoin in a few minutes. And how do we get the token? So I want to show you guys some small application. This is one sort of one-day application that we created internally in HandCash just to create some sort of stress testing tool for the SDK. It's called PayPistol. So the process is you are inside the app in PayPistol, you press this connect to HandCash button, you're redirected to your HandCash account, you review the permissions, you give the permission to the app, and you're redirected back to the application. So now we can insert a note, and every time that we press this gun button, it's going to trigger a payment. It's as simple as that. So there's payment, and we can go faster because we actually want to stress test our infrastructure. So you can go as fast as that. And as I said, it's something that they require a few hours, and they weren't like our best programmers. I mean, it's people that they don't even really know about the big concepts of Bitcoin. So I want to focus today on just on payments, and in particular these three features: instant payments, payment escrows, and payment streams. So instant payments is probably the concept we are used the most. They are just real-time payments with no intermediaries. So the sender just can send something like 10 cents to the receiver, real-time, and that's all. Really simple. The code that you require is something like that. Is the hello world that I showed you before. You just have to specify, once you have the token, you just specify like the description for the payment and who's going to receive the payment. So destination, currency code, you can use fiat currencies, and you can also use Satoshis. And of course, you can use handles and any payment. The second concept are the payment escrows. So the idea with escrows is we want to make sure that the money is going to be in place at the time that the deal is executed, because at the beginning, we know that we want to pay 10 cents, but we don't know the receiver yet. So there's a bunch of use cases for that. So we decided to wrap from a high level perspective, this concept. So there are two main steps. Again, we have to initialize using the authorization token. And then the first step is when we lock the amount from the wallet, and eventually we process the payment escrow at the time that we know who's going to receive the money. So we can do something like we lock 10 cents, and at the end of the process, when we want to execute the deal, we can specify the receiver and maybe something like get a fee for the service for offering, providing the platform and offering the service. And finally, we have payment streams. So it's some sort of payment when we know who the receiver is, but we don't know when the deal is going to be closed. So we're going to be increasing the amount until we decide to close the deal. So we have three steps in this process. One is when we create the payment stream, we specify receivers, amounts, description, same as before. But anytime during the process, we can just update the payment stream, changing the different amounts. And then finally, we can just close the payment stream, and it's when the receivers get the money. So now I want you to just think about what you can create with this, and I will be showing you different use cases, different ideas that we can explore to create new businesses and new products using these concepts. So the first idea I want to share with you is this concept of health data marketplace. So imagine that you can get paid for sharing your smartwatch data, like this one that I have here. So every time during the day, I'm generating some data that right now is not being monetized. And of course, this is something that is valuable. It's valuable for someone, for researching. There are many different purposes, but we don't have any way to monetize that. I mean, how much can you pay for that with the tools that we have now? But maybe now there's one opportunity to monetize this, maybe for a few cents. I imagine receiving a few cents every day just for being alive. The way we can implement this business model is using the instant payment feature, and it will be just something like that. The data buyer authorizes HandCash to spend money on their behalf. This is the token that we use. And then anytime that we find some set of data that matches with the data that this buyer wants to buy, imagine he wants to focus on people between 20 and 40 years, or just males or females, or some sort of criteria, is when we can just purchase more data. It's just a few lines of code. If you have any questions or anything, anytime, just we will be answering at the end. Just a small reminder. The second idea or the second concept are something like premium alerts. So imagine receiving alerts that are really rare, but they are actually valuable. And we can just pay a small amount just to get this alert. One example of that can be pay to receive email notifications about cheap flight tickets. It's something that, of course, has value. Maybe it's not the unique idea, of course, but hey, it's something that maybe it deserves to be paid, rather than just giving our personal information or any other alternative that doesn't seem to be working. We can just monetize this sort of alerts straight away. Again, we are going to be using instant payments in this case, and it's just a few lines of code. We have the alert receiver authorization token. So every time that we trigger the alert, the email, is when we can charge the alert receiver. And it could be something like just one line of code split into 3 or 4, where the alert service is receiving the fee, this 5 cents fee. Another idea, competitive gaming. Imagine doing small bets every time you play to make the game like more spicy, more interesting. And it's something we can integrate everywhere. Connect is something that was built to be integrated anywhere. So we can integrate, this is a game that I used to play. I recommend it to you. It's called 11 Tennis Table. So imagine something like just betting something like 10 cents every time you play, and the winner gets the pot. In this case, I want to show you how escrow payments will be used. In this case, we have 2 different participants. We have player 1, we have player 2. So at the beginning is the same. For each player, we want to log the amount that is gonna be in the bet. And eventually, if player 1 loses, he has to pay to player 2. And in the other side, if the player 2 wins, he has to cancel the payment, the escrow. The money is back to the user. It's just that simple. The next idea, it's something we are actually used inside Bitcoin SV, is the concept of tipping content creators. But I want to give a different perspective. Imagine that we can combine something like Twitter API with HandCash Connect. Or imagine that we combine the YouTube API with HandCash Connect. So we can still get the network effect of massive networks with millions of users where all the activity is happening, but we can wrap it to add additional features. So you can create a Twitter clone app and add something like the ability to tip the content creator. I mean, we don't want to replace Twitter. We don't want to do anything. We just want to run this experiment of, hey, if both people have HandCash and I appreciate your content, maybe I can just tip you a few cents. In this case, we are going to be using instant payments. So again, it's something as simple as the follower using token, we have access to the wallet, and we just tip the amount we want. That would be all. I want you to focus on this idea of we can combine different APIs. We don't have to build everything from scratch, and we can take the most from the network effect of these massive social media apps. So we have the opportunity to improve what they offer. Who knows? Another concept, it's called like instant referrals, because normally referrals in referral programs, you get a reward, but maybe it's not cash, or you don't have the cash available straight away. It's like something that you accumulate inside the app, and then maybe you can spend or something like that. One example of this is Tonic Poe. And if you don't know about Tonic Poe, it's like about getting paid for recommending products or websites in that case. So it's playing around this concept of, hey, you can get paid for recommending products. And the features that we can use in this case are, again, instant payments. So in this case, the token we need, the permission we need, is from the referred service. And then every time there's a new referral for the product or for the website, is when we trigger the payment. So in that case, the referrer will be receiving the money every time a new recommendation is detected. Another really cool concept, there's one company using it. They are called Kodak. If you don't know about them, what they are doing is they are offering a platform to monetize APIs. And this is the perfect example to show you how to use payment streams. So you have an API, and every time a developer is using your API, you charge them. So this is why this pay-per-call, it's called like pay-per-call business model. So we have like 3 main steps. First of all, in this case, the authorization we need is from the API consumer. Then at the beginning, we create the payment stream with the description of, imagine we have an API to get the shortest route between 2 points, and we expose that service in an API. So then who is receiving the money in that case? It would be the API developer. Or maybe if there's a service like Coda offering this, it would be fair to get a fee for them. And then every time there's a new request, so imagine that we open a daily window. So at the beginning of the day, we create the payment stream, and during the day, as we find new API calls, we increase the amount that is being charged to them. So at the end of the day, or like something that is arbitrary, we can finally close the payment stream. That would be the concept. I think it's flexible enough, and it just requires, again, a few lines of code. The next concept I want to share with you, they're called like micro translations. That's something we find really interesting, because if you know, but HandCash, it offers different translations to different languages. And it's really hard, because you don't really need a professional for that, because what you are translating, they are sentences. So you just have to translate a bunch of sentences. It's something that anyone that knows the language can do for you. And it doesn't really make sense to be paying something like maybe $50 just to translate maybe 20 or 30 sentences. Or I mean, it's really hard. It's something really particular. So we thought it could be cool to have some platform that offers this micro translation service. So imagine you have something like Twitter, and as you find translations that match one of the languages that you know, you can just translate them, send, and get the reward. And the reward in that case can be just a few cents for every translation. So the description is getting paid for translating sentences. It could be something like that. And in this case, we can take advantage of the concept of payment escrows. So let's say the employer or the entity or the person that wants the translation to be done is the permission we need, in this case, access to their wallet. And then two different steps. When we want to request the translation, we need to log the amount. There's going to be the reward. And once the job is done, is when we can process the payment escrow. And we can send the money to the translator guy. It could be something like that. And this is the very last concept. Maybe I think it's really interesting. Imagine that we can convert torrent into maybe something that we know is considered not very legal. We can make it actually legal. We can convert torrent into a distribution network. So the concept in this case is some sort of file sharing that rewards copyright owners and the sharing peers. So the copyright owners, they have to create movies, and they don't have to care about how these movies are going to be distributed. So they don't need a platform that has to scale, or they don't have to care about that. The only thing is, every time someone, I mean, we still keep this peer-to-peer network to distribute the movies, but the peers that are sharing, that are offering the service so people can get access to the movies, they just get a cut. In this case, we use the concept of instant payments. So we have the watcher authentication token, the person that is getting access to the movie, and we split the payment between different distributors of the movie and the copyright owner or the movie producer or something like that. But the concept is, or the key idea is, the company that created that movie can be paid inside torrent. I think it's an interesting concept that is worth to explore. So these are all the concepts or ideas I wanted to share with you. And my goal today was just to inspire you to find new business models, showing you some, maybe some of them are crazy ideas, but I think they are worth to explore. And I want you to know I didn't want to talk about how to use Bitcoin, or as you saw, it's just a few lines of code. And now it's time to focus on building. There's no limits. So just focus on exploring new business models and tell your not Bitcoin developer friends that they are welcome. And there's no excuses to start building on top of here. So thanks for your time, and I hope you find it insightful.
Thank you, Rafa.
Welcome.
I share my question screen. We've got quite a few questions have come through for you. And the first one I think is the most pertinent. When can we use HandCash Connect?
Yeah, so right now, the technology is there. The only thing is our team has been working here non-stop for a long time, and we want to protect this technology. We think it solves many different pieces of Bitcoin and solving problems that they've been there for years and years. So we need to make sure we have the patents, we have this technology protected, and once everything is ready, it will be available. There's no one looking forward to it more than myself and my team, but it's not a technological problem, it's a legal problem. There's many copycats in this ecosystem, and we need to make sure we keep our competitive advantage.
Sure. Okay. So any estimate? Are we talking a few weeks or a couple of months?
Probably a few months.
Yep. Okay. So we have another question here, which I suspect you might have already stumbled on the answer. Do businesses like Coda, etc., are any of them already running HandCash Connect in beta?
I can answer that.
No. Okay.
I mean, it would be giving information about a company that it doesn't belong to myself. So.
Yep, certainly. So someone's asking about the escrow payments. Actually, there were two questions which are pretty much the same one. With escrow, what happens when the two parties disagree about who should receive the escrowed payment? Is there a dispute resolution process or something?
Yeah, that's part of the platform. I mean, like any other marketplace or whatever, the platform should define what's the policy for this kind of dispute. We offer technology to make the payment effective, but that's something up to every different parties. Yeah.
So that's defined by the user of the, or not the user, but the business that sets.
I think within the different businesses with the different contexts and the different business models, they require different policies. So maybe with our experience, we can recommend which policies to apply, but there's no. We offer the technology, but we can run the business for the other person.
Sure. Okay. So a technology question then.
Nice.
John Pitts asks, what kind of backend languages can a developer use to integrate HandCash Connect? And how about straight API calls, no framework download? So I think what he means is, are there client libraries being built or being built in various languages? And is there, a REST API or some other generic API that people can use?
Yeah. So it's actually everything. It's on top of some REST API. We want to offer some wrappers for these APIs. Right now we have JavaScript SDK working on Flutter SDK, the technologies that we use. So internally we can test everything. But if you're using some programming language that we still don't have the SDK ready, you can just use the raw HTTP calls and done. So there's no limits. It can be integrated on the client side, on the server side, virtual reality, IoT. It's just HTTP. So no limits.
Great. The REST API, of course, is the universal language from which I think many language bindings can be built using auto-generated tools with it anyway. Before we take another question, I just want to let the viewers know about a feature that is coming to Bitcoin SV quite soon, which is probably quite pertinent to HandCash Connect, because you talk a lot about micropayments, and Bitcoin SV is capable of. Well, it makes sense to use Bitcoin SV for some very, very low value payments, simply because the fees are so low, less than a hundredth of a cent right now. So even half-cent payments make economic sense, but you can go even lower than that, because we're introducing the concept of a piggyback payment, where if you already have a transaction paying somebody, you can add outputs to the transaction paying very, very tiny amounts, even as low as 1 Satoshi. And the reason why that then becomes, the feature, I suppose, that makes that potentially usable is we're introducing the ability to consolidate many, many small outputs in a transaction that miners have the option of then mining for free. And the reason why they might do that is because it's a net benefit to the miner. If you take 100 tiny outputs and combine them into 100 tiny inputs and combine them into a single output, then you're reducing the size of the database that the miners have to use. So benefits them, and potentially enables a lot of new use cases, because you can build a business on the basis of receiving, a single Satoshi payment for providing some very, very microservice in large volumes. And all you really need to do is sit there and wait until you've collected enough of these small payments to make a consolidation transaction and put them all together into a more useful output. So Jenga asks, is building integrations with Twitter and Google, as you mentioned before, something that HandCash is planning to do, or do you think that other people would build these sorts of integrations using HandCash Connect?
Personally, I would love someone else to build these things, but it's something we internally are willing to do. My first Flutter app was a Twitter clone. So, we already have most of the pieces, and we just need the integration of HandCash Connect. But we really believe on focus, and building apps, it's something someone else should do. We want to build some apps just to inspire people, to have some use cases in how you can build apps, to promote good practices and this sort of thing. But we don't want right now to build new businesses on top of Connect. We already have enough.
Sure, we have the same problem at Enchain. Focus is one of the key issues to contend with, and anyone who has not yet tried their hand at building a Bitcoin SV application, it's a very, very common process, I suppose, to get partway through building one application, and then by the time you're even halfway through, you've got an idea for 10 more. And so we hear this quite a lot when we ask, are you going to do this thing? Are you going to do that thing? Developers quite often say, I'd like to, but I've got these other 20 things I want to do first. So yeah. There's no shortage of ideas as to what useful things can be built as you start to explore.
Yeah, it's like focusing means saying no 1,000 times.
Certainly. So Chris asks a question which is probably relevant to any wallet-based service. Do you plan on extending the SDK to be able to recognize tokens on top of BSV? For example, tokenized run. Will the HandCash Connect protocol have integrations with those, or be able to recognize them at least?
Yeah, they are part of the roadmap. And for now, we're really focused just on payments. We think there's huge potential, but once you have the base technology, it can be perfectly extended to token protocols. Yeah.
Thomas Zell asks a really good question here. Will HandCash Connect allow encryption and decryption of messages like MoneyButton and Baymail are currently doing?
Yeah, we had a few discussions about this feature during the last month. For now, it's something we don't think is necessary for the ecosystem we want to build, but of course, it's not discarded.
Sure. Again, focus.
Yeah.
Okay. We've probably got time for one more question. No, I'm told we've got a bit more time than that. So Monk is asking, do you see being able to sell your personal data, like your health data, as expandable to the point where it could become an alternative to UBI? I'm not actually sure what UBI is.
Like universal binary interface? Or...
Oh, right. Yes. Okay. Anyway. Do you see a role for HandCash Connect in storing or managing access to personal data? Because it's something that wallets seems to be a natural fit for wallets, because one of their core functions is key management, which is integral to personal data storage, certainly in the MetaNet model.
Yeah. So let's say, if you want to build something like this platform to sell your health data, we are not managing this data, and it's something up to this business. Mm-hmm. Again, we focus on offering the technology to perform the payments, but we don't see this data at any point. So we can control, we can have access maybe to the very personal information of the user, but not this specific data. So it's not up to us what to do with that data because we don't have access to it. Not sure if that makes sense.
I think so. So we've got a question. It's not a very technology question, but we'd like to hear your opinion. Do you think that a language translator could be something that someone who is actually learning a language could use? Could they earn money for, in the process of learning a new language? There was another question actually, which was quite similar, which was, could you envisage a place for a voting system where you could actually get many very cheap translations and allow the users to actually vote for the translation that was best, so that you can crowdsource the quality control?
Yeah, maybe we can combine the monetization of these translations with some sort of reputation system. So it's not just enough to send anything. In the long run, the quality of your job is gonna give you a reputation. So maybe we can combine them. If you're learning, but you are making a really big effort and producing quality translations, yeah, why not?
It actually sounds conceptually similar to BitQ&A and True Reviews. In that, it's essentially content production with a reputation management system, and both of those projects are looking at leveraging the blockchain to be part of that, and potentially expanding into leveraging on-chain identity as well.
Yeah, imagine something like also Stack Overflow. I guess you all know about Stack Overflow. So you can get, instead of just reputation points, that they are not bad, but hey, you could get a few cents for helping other developers. I mean, it's not enough to get 100, but every time you help someone, they could, or maybe appreciate your effort, or if you are the guy making the questions, you could just set a reward for them.
So we've got one last question here, which is again not a technical one, but I think that I'm sure you must have thought about this. If we start running large escrow deals using HandCash, how do we as users know that we can trust a wallet like HandCash? And I think that this question could equally apply to any service that provided escrows, etc.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the question means with large escrow deals, Not sure if.
Well, I think they mean if we're escrowing $1,000 or $10,000, how do we know that
Yeah.
HandCash, because HandCash participates in this somehow as the provider of the escrow service? Do they even need to trust HandCash? And if so, how do they know they can?
Yeah. So 2 comments. One is this is focused on micropayments. So you want big escrows. I'm not sure that's the product that fits in. And the second is it's our reputation as a company. I mean, if we have clients that we are not serving properly and we are scamming them or something like that, no one's going to be using HandCash Connect. So that's the incentive we have to provide the best service.
I think this is true, very much true, regardless of whether you're talking about the blockchain world or the traditional finance world. There are plenty of companies that we happily hand over large sums of money to look after on our behalf, and the reasons why we trust those companies are not actually anything to do with the blockchain. They're to do with the fact that the company's been around for years, decades. They have built up reputation over a very long period of time, and they've got an awful lot to lose by misbehaving. Not just with reputation, but of course, there's legal consequences to behaving fraudulently, etc. So
Exactly.
just because you have blockchain attached to a business doesn't mean that this trust issue suddenly becomes any more important than it is in the real world. But blockchain, I think, or Bitcoin enhances the solutions to these problems because of the fact that you do have immutable records of everything. It disincentivizes bad behavior even more because there's an evidence trail that can't be erased. So,
Yeah, I agree.
So we have about 10 minutes until the next presentation. So rather than listening to me witter on for 10 more minutes, you might want to take the chance for a bathroom break or something else. Go grab a snack. And next up, we've got Brenton from Run to explain the Run platform, which is a fascinating tool and one of several takes on the explosion of tokenization tools that are coming in Bitcoin. And as a parting word, I've got a question that it wasn't actually put to me by Jimmy, but not in this forum, but I've heard him say it before. So this one's for you, Rafa, and you don't actually have to answer it. In the context of blockchain, we talk about immutable more than almost any other word. And speaking of immutability, Jimmy wants to know what you use on your hair to keep it so perfect all the time. All right, so we'll leave it at that.